Good day, folks. Welcome to Module 2 of our three-part CompTIA series on next-gen marketing for MSPs and IT service providers. Um, Happy New Year. We're approaching the end of January here. We got our first month of 2017 under our belts. Looking good so far, hopefully, for all of you. Module 1 we did back in December, so for those of you who are just joining us, Mod 1 we really, our objective was to profile our client, profile our target audience, and know exactly who we're talking to, when we're talking to them, where we're talking to them, all that good stuff. Module 2 here now, we're going to start to really build our plan. We're going to build our stack. I'm not sure if any of you are familiar with the term marketing stack, but that's what we're going to be discussing here today. Module 3, next month, end of February, was where we're going to start to execute that stack and actually start to measure it. So Mod 1 recap, really, who is your customer? And this is what we should know now after Mod 1, who is your customer, okay, and what are the attributes that drive them, all right? What's the value of that customer? Okay, what's the value of a new customer versus a mature customer? Okay, these are the things that are going to start coming into play when we start to measure and manage our stack. What's your competition doing, and how do you, what differentiates you? We all hear the term differentiator constantly, but it's important. Where are you at against your competition? And in your markets, you're likely up against the same guys continually, the same people, the same competitors. Where do you size up against them? You need to know that. Where do you fit in your market? Your internal process. People want lead gen. I want new customers. Bring me customers. How much can you scale? How much can you realistically grow? How many can you realistically bring into? How many new clients can you onboard on a monthly basis without burying you? We come across people, different clients all the time, and they want to boil the ocean. They say, we'll deal with it when the time comes. No, too much growth, uncontrolled growth is as dangerous and can sink you as fast, if not faster, than no growth at all. Again, and what's your irresistible or remarkable offering? What are we going to tell these people? So when we get in front of these clients, when we get in front of these prospects and we're talking to them, what do we want to tell them? What do we want to offer them? What are we going to say? What are you going to say? So your mother always told you, never put your eggs in one basket. That holds true with everything in life, especially when it comes to marketing. What we want to do now is we're going to start to build out a diverse marketing stack, a diverse marketing communications plan and tool. Okay. I'm throwing in a bit of a shameless plug here. Plan27, what we use what we call a loop. You guys have sure been heard about, sales funnels and where you're at in the funnel, top of funnel, bottom of the funnel leads, all this other kind of stuff. We use what we call our loop, and it's our P27 client match loop. And it's because we're building a machine, we're building a stack here today that we're going to turn on and we're going to leave on. You feed it, you tweak it, you manage it. All right, it's not something you turn off. It's something that it is a growing, living, running thing. It's a running component of your business. Marketing stack. So you hear me talk about marketing stack, but you also hear people use the term marketing mix. Well, what's the difference between the two? Marketing mix is a very high-level marketing exercise that you do in the early stages of your business. This is where you're talking about marketing mix encompasses price points, distribution channels, branding. It would come with like a brand manifesto and the ins and the outs of what you can and can't do around your brand. It really is a grassroots marketing document that's attached to your overall business plan. What we're building here in this series is your marketing stack. This is your direct communications plan, really the meat of it, what you guys really want to get to, the heart of your marketing. You also hear about people talking about marketing mix, and sort of they use that term sometimes when describing sort of diverse different mediums and different choices of tools that you might use to sort of get to your end game. We're going to talk a little bit about that today as well. But again, that's really goes back to that's kind of what we're talking about, marketing and people and the reptile brain and how that all works. So. with our stack, as we start to build this out, we're going to have it on paper. We're going to have our loop. You're going to be able to see it. Once you can see it, you've got it gives you that transparency, so you can know, okay, well, this is talking to this, and this here is communicating over here, and now it's going to allow you to be able to see, to be able to pick up shortcomings. When you start measuring it, you'll be able to measure each different component, and when it's laid out on paper, and you can see it, and it's right there in front of you. There's my stack. Okay, how are we measuring it? What's performing, what isn't? It gets you out in front of your marketing rather than chasing it. Okay, puts you in control. And measurement, so we can effectively manage. Again, that's going to be more of a module 3 component, but I'm touching on it throughout here today, because measurement is something that you need to be thinking about as you're building out your stack, and as you're thinking about the different mediums that you're going to use to get your irresistible offering, your remarkable offering out there. How are you going to measure it? That's one of the number one questions. And any CFO out there is going to, you go to a CFO and you say, okay, I want $10,000 a month for the next year. He's going to say, okay, well, how are you going to measure his success? So you want to be thinking about that and be able to answer to that. And especially that's going to come into play when you start applying for things like MDFs and MDF funding and all these other good things. So the elephant in the room. How much is this going to cost? Guys, I got a pretty grim picture I'm using in this slide here, but marketing is an investment in your business, and don't ever really get this into your brains and think about it, learn it, live it, love it. If you don't feed it, it's not going to grow. You can only go so far on referrals. Eventually, you're going to have to start to build out your brand. You're going to have to start to get outside the nest a little bit and outside your comfort level and start to reinvest in your business. And you do that with marketing. Marketing should be an immovable line item on your business plan that you turn on and you leave on. And if it's not working, you make tweaks. And that's where, when we have our stack and we have our transparency and we can measure it and manage it, we don't have to worry about, we don't just get reactive and get angry and just turn it off. No, we say, okay, well, what isn't working? All right. A starting point. People always want a starting point. That is 10% of your gross. Now, these are guidelines only, but in any business, and whether you're a lawn care provider, you're an IT company, or you're an IT vendor, 10% of your gross is your starting point. Once you have some equity and you have firm footing in your market, you can start to move towards a maintenance schedule and start to slide that back to about a 5% of your gross. Again, guidelines only. We're going to get a little bit more into it, like I have here in Module 3. But just to throw this out there, I know some people. I've seen startup businesses spend as much as 35% of their gross out of the gate, and they keep their pedal to the metal because it's working so well for them, and they're so happy with what they're doing, with what their stack and their mix is, that they'll keep their pedal, and they can scale effectively. Sorry, let me back up. And they can scale effectively, and they can digest. They'll keep the pedal to the metal at 20% of their gross. As long as they're getting that ROI, they'll keep spending. But again, with that transparency out in front of our marketing, it affords you the opportunity to be able to make that proactive decision. You're not reacting, you're not guessing. Okay, you're going with it based on, okay, this is the data that I have, this is the business that we have here, this is how much it's costing me. Okay. So now we want to start thinking about building our stack. Okay, so again, I'm going back to my shameless plug and using my Plan27 loop here. And I use this loop because I try to simplify it. It drives me crazy when people overthink marketing. They try to make it more complicated than it needs to be. Actually, you know who the biggest culprits for making marketing more complicated than it needs to be is marketers themselves. It doesn't need to be that hard. Just sort of take that 10,000-foot view, and we talked about this a little bit in Mod 1. What is it? Break it down, look at it. And here it is. We're going to break it down into 4 parts. Okay, and here's our loop. We're going to nurture, or we're going to engage, we're going to nurture, we're going to connect, we're going to convert, right? And then, as they say, sell, rinse, repeat, and just keep it going, keep it going. And you're going to, this is a starting point. Okay, let's say now on top of this, you're doing shows. You attend a trade show and you come back with like 300 leads. Okay, guess what? You want to inject those 300 leads into number 2 of your nurture program. This isn't a standalone stack. This stack is the basis of your marketing plan and your marketing engine. All right. So build your stack. So now when we look at these things and we look at engage, nurture, connect, and convert, there's a myriad of different tools that we can use for each one of these different steps in our stack. And we need to start thinking about each one and, okay, so how am I going to engage? How am I going to nurture? How am I going to close, et cetera, et cetera. I want to start by going over and sort of, I want to pull back the curtain here a little bit and give you guys a little bit of insight on some conventional mediums, and then we'll start talking about some of the newer stuff. These are some of the choices that you have at your disposal. Conventional, direct mail. All right, direct mail has been, well, it's been evolving over the last 25, 30 years. I've been getting a lot more people asking me about it lately. Direct mail is a funny thing. All right, it's about the gatekeeper. Okay, so who's getting the mail? All right, so you've got you have a gatekeeper at the front who's getting the mail. They're chucking all the junk mail, all the flyers, and all this other kind of stuff. And the boss, the decision maker, they're getting only the stuff that's addressed to them. Okay, so how do we get around the gatekeeper? Oh, well, that's easy. We take it, we put it in an envelope. So now if it's in an envelope and it's addressed to the decision maker, there, we got through. Okay, but that's driving your costs through the roof. So now all of a sudden we're printing a nice fancy postcard that's personalized and addressed specifically to the recipient. Okay, now we have to do some insertion into envelopes. We have to pay for that. Now we have to laser name and address on the outer envelope. Okay, that's imaging. Now we have to do, but you also have to do what's called a letter carrier LCP pre-sort or letter carrier pre-sort to that data before you start lasering, so that you can get a deduction on your postage rates, whether you're U.S. Postal Service or you're Canada Post, whatever it may be. You can get breaks by doing your data processing up front, but again, that's more cost. Now you've got your cost of your postage on top of that. Before you know it, and you start adding up all these line items, oh, I got to pay a courier to drive this thing to drop it at the depot, so now I have to do a specific drop because I've done an LCP sort. All of a sudden you're $3 a piece. 4 or 5 could easily be up to $10 a piece, depending on how many you've run. The general rule with direct mail, you need to get in front of them a minimum of 3 times. Side note, digitally, LinkedIn, they say you need to get in front of clients 10 times, and this is a LinkedIn stat, by the way, from them. They say that you need to have your ad in front of prospects 10 times before they draw to an action. I think that's a bit high. I think three times is your starting point, and that's a direct mail rule that's been around for 20 years. So whatever that cost of that piece is, $10, plan on doing 3 mailings before you even start to get a sniff. So now you're at $30 a rattle. Use that to work it backwards. Also based on a successful direct marketing campaign, you're looking at when you're going address like in an envelope or unaddressed ad mail, you're looking at between 1% and 2% return. For you to start getting up into 10 and 15% returns, that's when you're into fully personalized pieces that are catered specifically to your audience. Television, radio. Television, people binge watch TV these days, so I'm not a huge proponent on TV advertising. And you guys, you see, again, you guys aren't. These are conventional mediums are casting a large net. Okay, so you start talking television, radio. You might only have 2% of the people listening to that radio station in the morning drive who are the ones who you want to talk to. Well, it'll be higher than that. If you start thinking, morning drive, you're probably more like about 20%. Of people who can, influential decision makers, someone who's going to be able to come into play on that. Television with binge watching and all that, you get people recording and they're jumping through the commercials anyways. But you guys have a much more intricate sales cycle. So again, keep in mind these are wide nets. So if you're casting a net to 100,000 people on the radio every morning, and the radio station's blowing their horn saying it's great, it's great, it's great, you only want 20% of those, but you want 20,000, but they're still charging you for 100,000. Remember that. They're charging you for all the kids and everybody else who you don't even want. Direct mail, when I start talking about data processing and letter carrier pre-sorts and all that, you can get smart enough with that where literally, even if you're doing unaddressed ad mail, so you save on your postage and all this kind of stuff, you do unaddressed ad mail into a business park. You can literally say, okay, well, I want to mail on this side of the street, but not on that side of the street. And you have that much flexibility. As a mirror to that, when we start talking digital marketing, think of this one. For a personal injury lawyer, right? I'm going to throw a couple things out here too, because also conventional mediums talk to some of the other conventional businesses and professionals out there. So just try to apply it to what you're doing. But as an example for digital, you can literally drop a digital fence around a local hospital. And any person with their mobile phone, once they cross that threshold, okay, over and walk into that hospital, boom, that they trigger on your campaign, and you can now start sending them mobile advertisements on their phone, okay, as an injury lawyer. How's that for ambulance chasing, right? So how many people are sitting around waiting in waiting rooms in hospitals, and they're sitting there and they're playing on their phones or staring at their devices? Every one of them are staring at their devices. You can be advertising to them. But it only kicks in and only kicks over, and you're only paying for the advertising on those people who are inside that electronic fence. How cool is that? That's digital. That's the new age. Now we're speaking directly to somebody who we want to speak to. Now, I shouldn't say that. There's also the kids and all that kind of stuff in there, but there's other ways to drill down. My whole philosophy is you got to work smart, not hard, right? That whole adage. Billboards. Love it. Billboards are great. They work great with radio. They work great with traditional marketing. Love it. You put together an ad campaign. Let's stick with lawyers. You know, you've got yourself a nice sticky little campaign with a nice solid brand, call it like a Neapolitan brand, where you're using a solid red and a white and a black or something. Okay, the people are driving by, they're seeing the brand. Okay, and then they're hearing it on the radio. They're tying it in. They're using all these different mediums together. Sure, it's great. Works great. But not for selling IT services. You guys have a very intricate sales cycle. You need to drill in and find out exactly who it is you want to speak to. But again, you have 100,000 people drive by a billboard every day. That outdoor company is charging you for the 100,000 traffic that drives by that street. When meanwhile, maybe only 100 people who drove by there are your target audience. Newspaper. Well, when was the last time you bought a newspaper, right? You can sort of apply your own practices to that. That's a sort of a dying medium. It's all online now. The news, and as they say, right, the news finds us. We don't find the news. Yellow pages online, very, very expensive. Again, I sort of write this off. It's like deck furniture on the Titanic, as they say. It's going down. Something to think about here with the yellow pages online, and what they're really selling out there is they come in and they want to do your Google AdWords and all that stuff for you. They're not actually driving and doing AdWords for you and your domain and specifically. What they're doing is they're buying Google AdWords and maximizing and doing SEO for your link in their directory. So it's not actually specifically to you; it's specifically to them. So it's a little bit of a scam. So when you search it in your market, what you'll do is you'll find like yellowpages.com/ABC IT company. So keep that in mind, and that's a question to ask. If you're in a smaller market, so these are conventional mediums, okay, and like I said, you're casting a large net. If you're in a smaller market, like less than 10,000 people, and you're building your IT company, it's a very good chance that you've broadened your services, and you're not just offering straight MSP. You're offering break fix, and you're helping. You're probably doing break fix stuff for kids' laptops in high schools, and you're probably doing all kinds of stuff. Networking, you're probably doing one-off projects and installs and all this other good stuff. In a case like that, you really are going to want to market to the masses. Maybe you're in a small town. Maybe you've got one billboard in the whole town, but everyone knows what's on that billboard. And you know what? Maybe you do want to look at renting that here or there. You need to book it in advance. But if it makes sense, the whole thing comes down to if it makes sense. And this goes back to Mod 1. Who is your customer? Who are we trying to talk to? If you're in a larger market and you're going straight MSP, that's it. Guess what? You need to be a lot more laser targeted. You have to have a much more intelligent approach to who you're going after. So here's some conventional mediums, and again, they work together. They can work together in different ways. Some of these conventional mediums also work with some of the newer digital mediums. All right. It's all a matter of how people are going to hear about you, and how are you going to get your message, your irresistible and remarkable offering in front of them. So our digital and our new medias. So I talked a little bit about digital fencing and all this kind of stuff. There is a myriad of different tools out there that we can use, and there's new ones popping up all the time. Um, but obviously the big ones, SEO, SEM. A lot of people, there's a little bit of confusion there. So I'm going to go back to the beginning. So for those of you who don't know, SEO, search engine optimization, is one thing and one thing only. It is organic traffic. So it's when you're going into the search engine and you're searching IT support Denver, okay, I'm going to get, so that's a keyword that I've used in Google. I'm going to come up in the organic listings, okay? The search engines, what they do is they dial in. It's all about, they need to create a positive user experience for their traffic. Okay, by creating a positive user experience for their traffic, that brings more traffic. When they bring more traffic, then they can charge advertisers, people like yourselves, more money because it's a better quality traffic. But your online presence, it all starts with your SEO and a strong organic. I'm like Google. Google have algorithms that they use on where they're going to place you and what they're going to show, and they use a combination of a bunch of different tools and different user experiences, and they check your ads against your landing pages and all this good stuff. But it starts with the SEO. That's your organic traffic. SEM is something else you've heard, search engine marketing. That is walking through the door into the myriad of different tools that are out there, such as geofencing around the hospital, such as paid search, paid display. Okay, where do you want this display? Do you want this display to go broad match for everybody within a geographical area, or do you want to target based on demographic, based on a geography? There's a million different things that you can use there. It would take me forever to go through it all, but it's more intricate. So when you're building your stack, it's a matter of, when you're looking at this stuff, and you're looking at engagement, nurture, what tools and what do you really want to do? How do you get in front of them? Do you want to go based on geography? You want to go on geography, and you want to go on the there's a brain freeze on demographics. Paid search as well. That is your intent marketing. Okay, and these are the pay-per-clicks that you're paying for. So if you have somebody searching IT support, I'll stick with Denver. IT support Denver. That really could be anybody. That could be a high school kid saying, I need IT support to fix my laptop, but they only want MSP client. They only want to sell MSP services. So you have to sort of work through it. So maybe you want to add some other keywords in there, like managed IT services Denver. There's a long tail, what we call a long tail keyword, high value, because the person that's typing that in, that's intent marketing, where they're coming and they're looking for something very, very specific. Okay, that's a great. Just so you know, paid search and the intent marketing, that is where you want to use for engagement. Or I'm not recommending. I don't want to give anybody anything definitive. I want to get you guys thinking and what works best for you. So I don't want to say here today that do radio and don't do Google PPCs. It's a matter of what works best for you. And get you thinking and what you want to do, and have some conviction in the choices you make when you're building your stack. If it's not working, you can tweak it. If radio's not working, hey, in 3 months, you don't want to just shut it off or whatever. You want to replace it with something else. You want to move from one medium into another medium and try something else, or have them working together, and maybe weight a little more to one than another one, and then maybe tip the scales and weight a little bit back the other way. So you're managing your stack. So the intent marketing out there, when someone is looking for you, it's like they say, right? When you're making a sale today, a used car salesman or a new car salesman on a lot, they say somebody stepping on that lot, they are already 90% sold before that salesman's even walked out of the building. Okay, because they've done all their research. They know what they want. They know what they want to do. All the salesman has to do is basically go out there with his paperwork, put it on the hood of the car, and say, press hard, there's 3 copies. So when they're starting their research and they're coming looking for your services, you need to be able to be found. This also goes back to SEO and your organic marketing, your organic search. Let's say your PPC campaign, your paid search campaign is temporarily turned off because you've hit budget for a particular month or whatever that might be, you still have to make sure that people in your market can find you when they're looking for your services. Direct email. Direct email is a great drip tool. Are you doing that? It's a great nurture tool. You get somebody on a mailing list. So somebody signed up for, if they've signed up for, say, a security assessment or a cloud assessment, or they want to know more about digital transformation, you still have that email address. You can still put them in some kind of a drip campaign. If you don't connect there, you still want to make sure you stay with them and remain top of mind. Because just because they don't convert today doesn't mean that they're not going to convert tomorrow. And actually, this is a very important point. Know that your sales cycle is not it's not an impulse purchase, it's not Netflix, it's not a pizza. You guys have a very intricate sales cycle, and it's going to take you're looking at probably a minimum of 3 months to a year and a half. A year and a half, you're going to have tire kickers coming and looking and thinking about outsourcing their IT. And then they're going to get cold feet because they don't want to let anybody go. They don't want to upset the apple cart. Jimmy, who's looking after their IT now, he just completely redeemed himself, so let's shelf it. It might be another 8 months or a year before they start thinking about that again. But guess what? You've made that initial contact when they first started thinking about it, and it's a matter of remaining top of mind with them throughout until they come to that decision to, let's get a company in here and get some quotes and start moving in that direction. So what is the method to your madness? All right, so again, when we're talking about our stack, okay, who's the audience? What are their behavior patterns? What of these, the conventional, the old versus the new, what are the best mediums that are best going to penetrate? How do they operate on a daily basis? Well, you're looking at a small to medium size or SMB business owner. These guys are pretty consistent in what they're doing. They work long hours, all right, and they spend a lot of time looking at their computers and looking at spreadsheets and all this other kind of stuff, and spend a lot of time moving and shaking. What's your best way to get in front of them, to talk to them, to get an introduction to them, whether it be through your brand on a billboard or an introduction through a Google search and intent marketing online? Again, how are you going to measure each component of your stack? Because as you start building this out and say, okay, I want to use these tools to engage, I'm going to use this to nurture, at each one say, okay, I'll need to be able to measure that going from engage to nurture. How am I going to measure from nurture to connect over to conversion? Once I hit that conversion, once I convert and I've got that client, how do I measure that attribution loop that brought them around to me? How's each media going to work to support one another? So if you're doing let's say you're doing telesales. Let's say are you driving to a webinar? Are you driving to tech demo? Are you calling local business people? Are you inviting them to a lunch and learn? All these different things, and then how are you going to measure it? Okay, when if you invite them to a webinar and you email them a webinar landing page or something like that, are you doing some remarketing so that you're able to stay with them? Maybe dropping a cookie on their computer so that you can continue to remain top of mind with them for the next couple of months. Okay, how much do you want each of these different mediums to engage? All right, like for how long? Let's say you're doing remarketing. Do you just want to remarket to them for a month or 3 months? You have to think about each different component. And when you have it down in front of you, as I'm going to keep going on about this transparency, but it makes it so much easier. You've broken it down and you can just look at it and say, okay, well, these are the pieces. And when you can measure each particular piece and you revisit it every week or bi-weekly or monthly or whatever it is, you can say, okay, this one here is outperforming here and this over here, and and get creative. Sometimes you have to get creative, especially with your conventional medias on measurement. Sometimes it comes down to basically asking the client if you're doing if you're running a radio ad. And you're inviting them to phone you, how are they getting that phone number? Are they getting that phone number off a billboard? Are they getting the phone number out of Yellow Pages? Where are they getting it from? So sometimes when you pick up the phone to measure this stuff, you have to say, how did you get our number? And measurement can be as simple as that, sort of the boots on the ground, as I call it. Something else with radio is a little side note, a little tidbit. If you are in a smaller market and radio is affordable to you, and they've come in, they've offered you a sweet deal, You have a very intricate sales cycle. Don't ever forget that. What you sell, what you say in a 30-second spot is not going to close them. You're not going to say, oh, I've got this dripping, juicy, beautiful, luscious pizza for you to order and make you all hungry with some descriptive a script to make you turn the car around and go in and pick up a pizza. No, it's an intricate sales cycle. So what you say in 10 seconds is going to be just as effective as what you say in 30 seconds. So if you are talking to a radio station, ask them about a 10-second brand sell. 10-second brand sells basically, it's the weather brought to you by ABC IT company. You're always in the prime time drive. You never get stuck in the middle of the night. And what you're saying, you come up with a short 10-second message that's high impact, that's going to drive them to an electronic asset, whether it be social media or your website. Little side note there. So again, diversity strengthens as well. A little side note, diversity strengthens your overall stack. And remember, so if you think about, I'm driving down the road, so if you're doing 10-second brand sales on the radio, you're on every morning on the weather brought to you by 8 o'clock, or the weather brought to you by ABC IT company, and that's every morning at 8 a.m. Well, sometimes I go to work at 10 to 8, sometimes I go to work at quarter after 8, so I'm not going to hear it. I might hear your spot once a week. Okay, by adding other mediums to that, it strengthens it. So now all of a sudden, if you're doing some social media ads, now I get into the office and the first thing I do is I check my Facebook page or whatever. Okay, so I've heard in the back of my brain, I've heard your ad in the 10-second brand sell for a couple weeks now, once a year, but it hasn't really registered with me. But now when I see, now all of a sudden I jump on my Facebook and I see an ad there asking me, inviting me to a security assessment or a cloud assessment or whatever that might be. You look and you sound familiar to me, but I'm not sure where. And that's the message recall from the radio, and the radio in the car, which is benefiting what you're seeing on the TV or on your Facebook page. Sorry. So that's how they sort of work together. And remember, you're playing off with marketing. Sometimes you're playing off, and I'll talk about this a bit more in Mod 3 too, but you're playing off that reptile brain. And sometimes you can be sitting there staring right at an advertisement, but you're not reading it. You don't even see it. You're thinking about something else. You're thinking about, football scores or something like that, who made the playoffs. But your reptile brain is still taking that in. That's sort of your subconscious. And all of a sudden that reptile brain starts coming out when they start coming to making buying decisions. And why do you look familiar to me? Why do I want to call you over this guy? And sometimes it's that strong branding and that strong messaging that's going to help you to break through when needed. So it's very important. So connection, okay? We broke through, right? We've engaged, whether that be, intent marketing with PPCs. Okay, our client journey begins, okay, through every step of the way. So as you're building your stack and you're looking at the different mediums, okay, remember to always, always, always make it easy to do business with you, okay? If you're using a lead capture form, and I'm going to say this one again, I said this in Mod 1, when you're talking about lead generation, all right, historically you get 30%, 30%, 30%. For leads where they're coming into you from certain areas online. 30% by phone, 30% by live chat services on your website, which I highly recommend everybody should have live chat, and 30% web form. Remember the intricate sales cycle. You know what? I don't want to fill out a web form. I just want to talk to somebody. They pick up the phone, they call you. So think about maybe getting a dedicated 800 line. So that you have a dedicated 800 line on your landing page, so that any number that's coming in through, any phone call that's coming in through that number, is directly a result of this particular campaign and that landing page, because they only would have gotten that number from that landing page. Live chat. Would you go to a show and set up a booth and leave it unmanned? No. And so think of your website as your trade show booth. Your website is your electronic presence, your electronic storefront. Would you open and unlock the doors to your storefront and then just leave it unattended and go out on sales calls and leave the door wide open, have people walking around and sort of looking at stuff on their own? You never would. So live chat on a website it's your greeter. And I don't want to use Walmart greeter, but really it is. But you guys certainly aren't Walmart services. You guys are awesome, cutting edge. You're selling some great things that should be exciting people, okay? But have someone there to say hello. Have someone who speaks techie, who can say, hi, how can I help you today? You know, this also begins, remember again, the intricate sales cycle. You need to build your know, like, and trust. So our sales cycle, we're talking a month to a year and a half. It could be a year and a half out before you actually finally start proposing to these guys. And this is another reason why you want to turn your engine on and leave it on. Because you want to just keep coming back, keep coming back, keep coming back. And you have to sort of just keep on people, stay top of mind and stay with them. But throughout this, when you're blogging and you're using social media, you're talk with people, not at them. And remember, your social media is a nurture tool. It's a nurture tool to build your know, like, and trust factor. And I guarantee you, I guarantee you 100%, not one SMB out there in North America, around the world today, will scrap their internal IT people and their internal IT process and outsource it to you and your company until they know you, like you, and trust you. Full stop. And I can say that with 100% confidence. Again, what is your offering? Know what your offering is. Are you inviting to a webinar? Is it an assessment, security, cloud, digital transformation, whatever that might be? But know what it is. What's the follow-up? What's the nurture? Is it a drip? Is it email? Keep the relationship moving. Something that you can do in this stack. So when you start talking about engagement, nurture, connect, conversion, maybe you want to have an escalating offer. Okay, so maybe if you start off by inviting to a webinar, then you offer, click here for a tech demo. Then escalate it maybe now to a free month trial or a free assessment, free network assessment, whatever that might be. I'm just spitballing here, so don't hold me to different, don't be copying and trying to use exactly what I'm saying here. I'm just trying to use examples to get your thinking. I am literally, as I'm talking here, I'm just sort of throwing this stuff out there. So please, don't be writing down and say, okay, we're going to try that, and I'm calling the radio station or I'm calling the billboard company. I'm actually very pro-digital with what you guys are doing. I don't believe in any conventional playing any part in your marketing stack unless you are in a very small market where you're marketing to the masses. But you're selling MSP and you're going after SMBs particularly, you need to have a very laser targeted approach and work smart. I'm more of the approach where let's start dropping geofencing around businesses. Okay, I want to start dropping. So if you don't have that IP address, I'm not marketing to you. Okay, and we as the way that I work is I get that specific. Because I don't want to pay for some kid. I don't want to pay for some kid searching me for his laptop if I'm not offering that service, for some high school kid. I don't want to do that. Some of these pay-per-clicks in some of these larger markets, you get into Manhattan, for IT support in Manhattan, you're $60 a click. Every time someone clicks on that thing, you're $60. That's expensive. You want to make sure you know who you're talking to. So keep the relationship moving. As I said, with sort of the, and you can sometimes doing that one way to do that, it would be the escalating offer. So that's a tool, that's a tactic that you could use. Oh, and actually, yeah, so I talk about that here in scheduling the client journey. Have a schedule, okay? So let's say that you have someone sign up for a tech demo or a digital transformation assessment. How can updating their tech grow their business and increase their profitability? If all of a sudden that drops off and they go dark on you, at what point do you start following up? You certainly aren't going to just forget about them. That has to go into another list, and you need to make sure that you stay with them. That becomes part of your stack. What's the timing that they move over here? Once they move over there to that sort of nurture part, what are the publications? Are you sticking with them on social media? Are you sticking with them with an email drip? Okay, what's your content strategy? You don't want to start carpet bombing them and just start pounding stuff down their throat daily, weekly. People will turn off your feed. You might sit there and still see them in your list. So, and I'll use social media here. You don't need to pound people every day. And plus, it's tiring for you. And how do you continually keep coming up with good quality content day in, day out? You can't. It's impossible. And so you're going to run out of runway pretty quick. Take these posts, these quality posts, and spread them over the course of a year. Every other week, once a month. but make it high quality content that your reader, that your target audience, who we profiled in Module 1, what they want to read, what they want to consume, what turns them on, what really gets them going, and drip it out to them. And now all of a sudden, and now it's quality content. They're going to start looking forward to it. And when it's quality content that they like every time, they are, even if they don't read it right away, they're going to earmark it and they'll read it later. I have some people who I follow, and I read everything that they post, absolutely everything that they post, because it's always quality, always, always, always quality. Again, and then I start talking about the escalating offering. That's sort of a tactic, a strategy that you can use to sort of bring them around and drive them to that conversion. Okay. Always remember our obstacles. So again, when we were profiling our client in Mod 1, all right, what were their pain points, okay? And throughout this stack, and as you built this stack, and as you've determined your irresistible and remarkable offering, have you spoken to the pain points, okay? Have you been able to differentiate yourself away from your competition to make you sort of the obvious choice throughout this, basically be checking these off the list as you're picking each medium, and as you're looking at each medium and how it's going to function in your stack. Is it accomplishing these goals? Why do these people want to do business with you? Are you speaking to that in your creative, in your ads, in your landing pages? Okay, say it again, and make it front and center why they want to do business with you and why you are the best. This is sort of another side note here. I think you guys need to be tremendously excited about what you're selling. You guys are selling to a market, SMB market, and you're selling services to digitally transform them, to bring them into the next millennium. This is only what you guys are doing, and what you guys are offering is growing at an incredible rate, and there's an enormous amount of SMBs out there in the market who are unsure, and they find it overwhelming because it's changing so fast. But what they do is it's so easy for them to become complacent because they just want the stuff to work. As you know, you've probably been hearing that for years. Just make it work. Just make it work. Well, they still want it to work, but they also want the excitement of the new stuff to make them more profitable, more efficient. Okay, through technology. Get excited about it. Take a position of confidence with them. All right. So I'm done ranting for the day for Module 2, okay? So a little bit of a recap on it, and I talked quite a bit there about stacking, about different mediums. Again, go back to Module 1, all right? Remember our client profile, okay? Who was that? Who are they? Who are we talking to, all right? Now, look at our loop. Look at your stack. Okay, some people build it out as flow charts and all that, and you do it whatever way you feel comfortable, whatever works for you. I use the loop scenario here with you today, just because I find it the simplest. It's the easiest to look at. It's your easiest quick glance. And you don't need a 7-step funnel and how you're going to move them through the funnel and all this. You know what? Just basically, where's my loop? Where's my engine? I want to turn it on and I want to keep it on. All right, and what are the different mediums? What are the different tools at my disposal to get me around from A to B? Okay, from 1 to 2 to 3 to 4. All right, your engage, nurture, connect, convert. Okay, those really are the 4 high-level steps. Okay, Module 3, we're gonna start breaking each one down. We're gonna start talking about measurement and what we can be expecting from each one. And sort of, getting the rubber to hit the road there, and manage it. So, as they say, you can't manage what you can't measure. So we're going to talk about measurement each step of the way. We're going to talk about again, our engage, nurture, connect, and convert. And hopefully, by the time we're done that, February 3rd, you guys are going to be able to be ready to start putting this stuff together and full forward. Again, so we're going to open this up for some questions here now. I'm going to hand this back to Lisa. Thanks very much for your time today, guys.